Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pharmacist Fridays on Daily with Doc and Becca. We are so glad that you have decided to jump on and connect and information. Hello, Olga, out on YouTube. Let's go ahead and make sure we've opened up the Zoom room and let people in out of the waiting room. Hello, everybody. So we love to see new faces. We love to see old faces and, everything in between. But we want to make sure that as you are chiming, we want to make sure that we're answering the questions that you want to hear. So that is one of the reasons why we do Pharmacist Fridays and we have Q&A sessions. And today we are going to pick up on some of the questions that we've had in the past. So if you've got questions now, go ahead and raise your hand or put it in the chat if you're on one of the different platforms where we are live streaming. If you'd like to join us live, zoom.dailywithdoc.com. That's zoom.dailywithdoc.com. Put that in your URL. It'll bring you right into the waiting room of Daily with Doc. And that is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific, 1 to 2 Mountain, 2 to 3 Central, and 3 to 4 Eastern. And that is 9 to 10 in South Africa. So if you're somewhere in between or even beyond, you're welcome to join us here on the Daily with Doc show. My name is Becca Dukes. I am a certified naturopathic practitioner, certified holistic health coach, and the director of Student Services for the Institute of Holistic Health. And you are watching a resource that puts more tools in your toolbox to naturally help yourself on this journey we call life. As we are here with Pharmacist Ben, and hi, Bruce, thank you. Bruce says, hello, Ben, from YouTube. And we're super excited because we want to have this interactive, okay? So as we are getting started, folks, we have the one and only Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. He is here. He's a registered pharmacist, nutritional consultant, cosmetic chemist with over 30 years of experience formulating supplements and skincare products. Okay. He has taught thousands through his lectures and radio programs and is widely respected for making complex health science simple and practical. Did you get that? Complicated health science made simple and practical. So I know that you're going to be in for a treat as you're listening today. Some of those things that you've been worried about, wondering about, and think are just like out of this world, there's no hope. Well, he's going to share with you a simple truth about our health and how it interacts with nutrition or when it gets what it needs. Okay. So as we are jumping in, Pharmacist Ben, I just want to say thank you once again. And then you have such a heart for people. You want to make sure that people are getting answers that we're not just talking about, complicated topics that may pop into our mind, which we don't. We actually get these questions. And I know there was one question that you wanted to talk about and get started with, and that has to do with nutritional shakes and different things to add to it. Go for it.
Okay, yeah, there's a couple things. First of all, thank you. That was a very kind
Sit back.
introduction. I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, we have questions, and you guys sent me some things to talk about. But before you get to that, I thought, and I see what you think of this. I got one of our longevity patients who we've been working with asked me about glucosamine and shellfish allergies.
Wait, you need to sit back.
And shellfish allergies. I can't really see myself here. Like this? Is good?
Yeah, that's good. That's because some people that are hearing impaired, they can still read your lips unless they're cut off.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
See?
Very thoughtful, very thoughtful. Okay, does it sound clear? Am I coming through clear?
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, glucosamine shellfish allergy. So we hear this all the time. People say, "Oh, I can't take that. I have shellfish allergies." Right? So, and this kind of came to, and I hear it a lot. You guys all hear it a lot, I'm sure. So anyway, this one gal said she noticed that the TMR shake had shellfish, says it has shellfish, blah blah blah. And then I heard from, I think it was Marilyn maybe said, or somebody said that this patient said that she felt woozy when she did the TMR shake, right? So, and then she said there's shellfish in it. Okay, it's a couple things. First of all, there's about 80, 90, maybe more different things in the TMR shake. Why this person would automatically assume that it's the shellfish, that's kind of, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It could be anything that's causing this woozy. Plus, this patient has a lot of health issues. So it could be anything. That's first of all. Second of all, what exactly is a shellfish allergy? And we hear it all the time, and this is really important because a lot of times in the world of nutrition, we operate by what are called heuristics. Do you know what a heuristic is?
No.
Computer term, and it refers to a shortcut. And when we don't want to think, we use shortcuts. Stereotypes are heuristics. Memes are heuristics. Advertisers and marketers depend on heuristics. In the world of health and nutrition, especially when it comes to our health and nutrition, we can't afford to work with heuristics. We can't afford to work with shortcuts. We can't just talk jargon. Some people say, "Oh, I have a shellfish allergy." What does that mean? And where's the shellfish? Do you think there's shellfish in the TMR shake? Do you think there's shellfish in the Gluco-Gel caps? No, there's no shellfish in the TMR shake. And by the way, when you have a shellfish allergy, what are you allergic to? Why shellfish? Why not regular fish? What's going on? Why are you allergic to shellfish? Does anybody know? Somebody out there with a shellfish allergy, tell me what that means. We can't really afford to talk in these kind of like mental shortcuts and not really understand what we're saying. So how does it work? First of all, there's no shellfish in the Gluco-Gel caps. There's no shellfish in the TMR shake. There is glucosamine, which is derived from shellfish. It's different than shellfish. There's no shrimp in your TMR shake. There's no lobster in your TMR shake. There is the Gluco-Gel caps or any other glucosamine products. Shellfish contain or have a shell. That's why they're called shellfish. And that shell contains a glucosamine, and shellfish are a source of glucosamine. Shrimp shells are very cheap, obviously. Shrimp are abundant, and the shells are not being used. And that tells you a couple things, by the way. First of all, the glucosamine comes from the shell. When you're allergic to shellfish, you're not allergic to the shell. You're allergic to the shellfish, to the fish, not the shell. You follow me? There are proteins in the fish, in shellfish, that people get allergic to because protein allergies happen. Nobody is allergic to the shells. However, in the production of glucosamine, there may be a trace amount of protein in there. It's highly unlikely that there is. If there is, it's microscopic, a speck. And the reason that is on the package, the disclaimer, is called CYA. Okay, do you guys know what CYA is?
Cover your assets.
Cover your assets, exactly. It's a CYA. There is no allergy proteins in glucosamine, Gluco-Gel TMR, but they're put in intentionally, I should say. But in the production, there may be a trace. It's highly unlikely that there is because these things are incredibly refined. and highly tested, but you never know. There might be a speck or something, and somebody has a reaction to something. And these days, you just got a CYA. So when you're allergic to shellfish, you're not allergic to the shell. You're allergic to the meat, proteins in the meat. And glucosamine does not, or a TMR, a Gluco-Gel capsule, does not have shellfish in it. It doesn't even have shell in it. It has glucosamine derived from the shell. Now, the interesting thing there, if you're leaping ahead and you're thinking ahead, you can actually use the shells of shrimp as a source of glucosamine and high hyaluronic acid, by the way, and other important molecules that can help you with your joints and your skin and your fascia and your blood vessels. And I always tell people, save your shrimp shells, freeze them, and periodically take them out and put them in either bone broth or fish broth or anything that you don't mind, that you'd like to have a seafoody, shrimpy kind of flavor to, and you'll get glucosamine and high hyaluronic acid and other connective tissue building substances. So that I just want to clear that up. As far as this one patient goes, she has a lot of stuff going on. For if she said she got dizzy when she used the TMR shake, it's highly unlikely that it's the glucosamine in there that's derived from shellfish that's causing that problem. There's so many different things in TMR. It's a very complex product, not to mention protein, and protein is what people usually react to, and this patient is very compromised. So it could be anybody's guess what she's reacting to, but it's highly unlikely that it's the glucosamine, which is derived from shellfish. Okay, so I want to get that out of the way. Does that make sense? Now, I hope everybody, when they hear, oh, I can't use that because I'm allergic to shellfish, now they can kind of parse through what that really means and have an appropriate response. Is that cool?
So I think that's something that really needed to be expressed here.
Yes.
I have a dear friend. They are a coach who does have a shrimp allergy. I've seen it.
It's not uncommon. I mean, it's about 1 or 2% of the population will have this problem. So there are people who have that.
He drinks the Tangy Tangerine. He drinks the Osteo Fx. He takes the Gluco-Gel tablets.
Exactly.
He can take the Gluco-Gel liquids with no
it's
problem.
It's strictly a CYA. The odds of shrimp protein being in the Gluco-Gel, the glucosamine, is so slim. It's almost impossible. And if there is, it's only going to be a tiny little trace amount of the protein. It's just unlikely for that to happen. So it's important that we don't just hear things and then run with them. That we kind of, especially with everything, but especially health and nutrition. Okay, so that's that. And now, what else did you want to talk about? The blood? What's specific? I know there's a lot of topics here.
So we have a question, and it may have to do with this topic. So, Marilyn, what is your question? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I have 2 questions, but one of them is structured water. Can water be structured by just putting it out in the sun, a glass jar in the sun?
A glass jar in the sun. The sun has structuring properties for sure, and I'd say it's unlikely. You need to have
it
something.
Organizes the molecules.
There has to be some kind of ions in the water. What's that? Say that again.
They say that the sun, the heat, and the light waves organize the molecules of the water.
I don't know the answer to that. I would think that if there was ions in the water, that could happen. But just plain H2O molecules, I don't think they would be structured by the sun. But if there was electrically active ions in the water, yes, that could happen. Absolutely. Sulfates particularly. But I don't think just plain H2O molecules will be structured by ultraviolet radiation.
So if I get electrolyzed water,
if you have electrolytes in the water, that can happen. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Second question. I have a client that is asking about dehydrated food for budget reasons, and also, they can last longer. Yeah. Is dehydrated food beneficial? Is it harmful?
Well, that's a really interesting question. One of the things that has to happen for food to get processed in the digestive system, it has to have water. And one of the problems with our food supply is that it doesn't have enough water. We eat a lot of food that it has been dehydrated, or not like dehydrated, but desiccated, dried out. Crackers, cereals, breads, things like that. The water's been taken out. So the body has to have water in order to process that food. Now, it'll draw water out. The body's a way of drawing water out, but you can facilitate that by drinking, and you really want to make sure you're eating foods that have a high water content. That's ideal. Obviously, dehydrated food has no water content. So if you're
I think
dehydrating
she's
the
trying to
food,
preserve her food so that, you know, it
yeah,
stays.
it's a preservation technique.
Right.
Exactly. And that's why they do it. It's a preservation technique. Also, it shrinks the food. So for space, if you're trying to store food, dehydrating it compresses it because the water takes up some
Now
bulk.
she says, well, you're going to add water back to it anyway.
You are going to add water back to it, but the problem is once the water is removed from the food through in the water in the dehydrating process, you may be losing nutrients. You may be losing enzyme activity. You may be losing nutritional value in the dehydration process. The extent you're losing it, I don't know. And when you place the water back, yeah, obviously you're getting water in there, but you may not be getting the same amount of water. It may not be structured water. You know, vegetables and fruits have structured water built into them, so it's a different type of water. Not to mention, if you're using tap water, you're going to get all the stuff that's in the tap water in your food as well. So,
And it's built back is the water, the fruits and vegetables, is it due to the sun that it's structured?
Say that again.
Is the structured water
Yes,
in the
vegetables and fruits structure water, and it's not the sun alone, but the minerals in the fruits and vegetables, in combination with the sun, in combination with ultraviolet energy, solar energy, and the water that has the structuring property. It's all of it together, and that's what happens in the blood, by the way, and in the body. The water in the body is mostly structured water too. Largely structured, particularly in the cells. And structured water is a better form of water for hydration. And most importantly, in the body anyway, the water, when the structuring properties of the water give the water all of the water collectively a coherent property. So water is just a bunch of water molecules. And if you look, you know, a molecule, just to give you a sense of perspective, there are maybe orders of magnitude in the sextrillion. That's a billion, 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 a billion times a billion times a billion water molecules in a glass of water. A sextrillion. You know, obviously that's an inconceivable amount of numbers. So when we talk about things that are molecules, we're talking about incredibly small. And water in the body is made up of water molecules. These water molecules are jostling back and forth in ordinary water, but in structured water, all of these water molecules become coherent, essentially making all of the water one thing. So yeah, it's a bunch of water molecules, but all of the water operates like in this coherent way where if you touch the top of the water, the bottom of the water is affected. This water organ, if you will, or this water structure, if you will. If you touch the top, the bottom gets the message. That's what coherence does. It allows the whole thing to communicate instantaneously. That's how the body that's how the body communicates. That's how messages are sent across the body, across this solid, essentially solid water. It's kind of a gel water, is a better way of saying it. That's what structured water is. And so structuring water is a very, very important part of what the body does. And the body structures that water through a combination of ions, electrolytes, and also proteins. Collagen, for example, has structuring properties. And that's one of the reasons why as we age, you know, I say we blobify. I call it blobification. We lose that structuring capacity and we blob. We turn into a blob, right? And even if you were lean and skinny, microscopically, if you looked at us, we'd be blobified. And this is why building connective tissue, I consider to be the single most important thing you can do for anti-aging, is building the connective tissue. Ions and electrolytes do the same thing. They also structure the water. So putting ions in the body becomes important for water structuring. And also, you can drink structured water by drinking ions that have fluid in them, that are associated with fluids. And that's where fruits come in, and fruits and vegetables. And that's why vegetable juices are so important. They do lose their structuring over time once you juice them. And you can actually see them. You can actually see that in the juice. The juice will separate out. It'll form two fractions over time, and that's the water, essentially the structure being lost. And then the Beyond Tangy Tangerine also, when you add water to the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, you will have a certain amount of structuring, but you'll really structure it when you spin it. That's why I always encourage people to use a blender. You can, to a certain extent, a spoon or just shaking. Really, if you spin it into a vortex, you'll really structure it. I'm sorry, what?
Why does the spinning do it?
It creates a vortex, and it organizes the water around the electrolytes. It puts energy into the system, it spins it into a vortex and it creates a structuring effect. So you're essentially structuring the water by putting it in a vortex.
So when you say ions, so like the periodic table, you got the minerals and you got positive, negative, calcium.
Ions are basically everything on the periodic table that's but when it carries an electrical charge, free. So if you look at the periodic table, it's got calcium and boron and chromium and sodium and potassium, magnesium, etc. Those are usually found in nature, connected to things, right? On Earth, they're connected in rocks. But if you can figure out how to spread all those little atoms out into a long string, they become electrically active. That's what an ion is. An ion is an electrically active atom. The ionization is creating a charge, an electrical charge. Charges come in two varieties, positive and negative. And this gets into a little bit of physics, and I don't know how deep you want to go, but it all has to do with the amount of electrons that are free. So if you have extra electrons, ironically, they call it a negative ion. If you have a shortage of electrons, ironically, they call it a positive ion, which leads to a lot of confusion because you would think it would be the opposite. But it turns out that negative refers to extra electrons. You can think of extra electrons simplistically, as extra electricity. And the body wants extra electricity. We run on electricity. So when you do put negative ions into the system, and hospitals will actually have negative ion generators. You can actually buy negative ion generators on Amazon. And that's spewing negative ions into the air. And we feel better when we're around extra electricity. We're sicker when we have a shortage of electricity.
So the ground is negative also. So that's why.
Correct. Standing barefoot on the ground is the classic way to get negative ions into your body because the earth is constantly streaming electrical or negative ions, extra electrons through the ground from the center of the earth. The center of the earth is a big battery, and it's streaming ions from the core upwards through the mantle to the soil. And that's kind of cool. You can actually get supercharged from the earth. That's why there's a lot of alternative healthcare practitioners who think shoes are one of the reasons why we're not as healthy as we're supposed to be. No other animals wear shoes. Other animals are like, they're walking right on the electrons, right on the stream of electrons. They're getting supercharged from the earth. We're wearing insulators. We go through our life wearing insulators, blocking that flow. And that's why walking barefoot in sand and mud and dirt, you can actually feel it. Most people will say that it feels really good to walk barefoot in the grass, right? Or walk barefoot in the dirt. And that's what they're feeling. They're feeling that beautiful electrical energy. It has a wonderful feel to it. Same with just laying on the ground or laying on the forest. They call forest bathing. Have you heard of that term, forest bathing? Forest bathing is when you actually take a bath from the electrons, the negative ions in the forest. In fact, that's prescription medicine in Japan. Shinrin-yoku, they call it. And they'll write a prescription for depression, for forest bathing. It's considered to be medicine. Cool medicine, right? The ocean is a big electron sink, a big negative ion sink. That's why everybody loves to be at the ocean. Historically and throughout human history, people have loved being at the ocean or in the beach. So all that has to do with the negative ions, the electrical energy. Electrical energy, we live in this chemistry world, this chemocentric world where we focus on ingredients and chemical components, but it's really the electricity that makes everything work. Chemistry only works because of electricity. All chemistry is all electricity is magnets. It's called electromagnetism. There's no such thing as really electricity. It's electromagnetism. Because wherever you have electricity, wherever you have an electrical flow, you got a magnetic charge around that, perpendicular to that flow. So if you have a flow like going this way, there's magnetic charges around it, and that's a basic principle. That's how machinery works. That they run electricity and they create a magnet, and then that magnet does things. And so the body is magnetic by virtue of all this electricity that's flowing through us. And as we age, we lose electrical potential. We lose electrical charges. And all the things we're talking about with nutrition is really to facilitate electricity. But it's not the kind of electricity like a light bulb. You can't put your finger in a light socket to get that electricity. It's a microscopic version, or really a quantum version of that macroscopic phenomena that turns on your light. So nutrition works by virtue of electricity, And anything that's electrical in the world, that has electrical charges in the world of nutrition is going to facilitate, or can, I shouldn't say always, but can facilitate your health. And that's why ions are so important. And that's why minerals, they call them minerals. They're not really minerals. That's kind of a colloquial term. They're really ions. They're really electrical particles. It's
Awesome.
elements. The minerals, technically speaking, a mineral is something that's all shoved together. It's like when you're on a subway or on a train or a bus and you're all squished together. That's a mineral. But if you could figure out how to string that mineral or separate out all those atoms that are squished together in the mineral, you'd have an electrical charge. And not even by itself. That all those electrons have to interact with water. It's the combination. They're called electrolytes because they're interacting with water. Without water, you don't have any electrical charges. That's why dehydration works. Dehydration removes all the electricity, and that's what keeps it stable. Electricity is good, but it has a destabilizing property over time, and that's why fresh food breaks down. The electrons disperse. And that's why fresh food has to be eaten fresh if you're going to get the electrical value of it.
Wow.
This is
I'm
way,
gonna have to replay this message.
yeah, this is way too much.
This is
I don't know why you get me
fantastic.
into all this stuff here.
I'm so glad you
Drink-
did this. I'm so glad I asked that question.
Yeah, drink your Beyond Tangy Tangerine and eat your vegetables and fruits.
Thank
That's
you.
what
All
you
right.
basically need to know. If you want to know more, yeah, that's
Yeah.
really to get into a lot of chemistry here, a lot of quantum chemistry. I told you, said this before. The hardest thing in pharmacy school is called physical chemistry, PChem, which is physics plus chemistry. And so people who don't like chemistry, try throwing some physics into it. And the famous bumper sticker in pharmacy school is honk if you pass PChem. That's a joke that everybody tells. I happen to have loved PChem personally, and really, if you can really leverage PChem, you could be a really good nutritionist and chemist.
Well, my son loves science, so I'm
PChem.
hoping maybe he'll go in that direction. So I love the fact that you had mentioned the forest bath. I had never heard of that.
Yeah, Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing.
So I love walking across the grass. In fact, I even pulled me out of the house the other day like it was an emergency and I had to take my shoes off
What? Just to walk in the grass.
to walk in the grass and take a
It feels
break.
great.
Yeah. So we
Little
have
kids
trees.
will do it automatically. Little kids will take off their shoes, and my granddaughter just takes off her shoes and runs in the grass. Doesn't
Yeah.
think of it. She doesn't know, but it feels good.
Well, and my youngest one has never worn shoes as much as he has since he's been here with me in his whole entire life. And so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what's kept him as healthy as he is.
Maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So,
We got some more questions here.
yes.
And comments. So Olga says thunderstorms release negative ions
Yes.
in
That's
the
why.
atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Olga.
That's why I feel so. That's why you know how it smells so great after a thunderstorm.
Love
That's
it.
the negative ions. Yes, absolutely. That's 100%. That's the case. Yes.
So Robert wants to know, speaking of ions, is it good to drink ionized water?
Yes, it's good to drink water with. I don't know, depending on what's in the water, but ionization of water. If you have ions in the water and you electrically charge the water, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, we talk about plant-derived colloidal minerals. Plant-derived colloidal mineral drinks also contain ionic minerals. The ionic minerals and the plant-derived minerals are complex together in the shale. In the way the plant-derived minerals come from, they come from these mines. Probably know this. I think it's in New Mexico or Utah.
It's in Utah.
It's Utah. Okay. So there's mines in this area. There's a lot of these mines, which are the end result of a lot of foliage, a lot of plants that have been compressed over the course of literally hundreds of millions of years into these tight shale complexes. Now, these shale complexes, interestingly, if you grind them up, you put them in water, they'll dissolve in water or suspend in water. They'll both suspend and dissolve in water. Dissolving is a little bit different than suspension. Suspension is hanging. Dissolving is a biochemical phenomenon where the atoms that are suspended in the water atoms are much smaller, and they're interacting with the water in a different kind of way. We don't talk about the ionic minerals in Beyond Tangy Tangerine and in the plant-derived mineral drink. I don't think it has a name. It's just called plant-derived minerals, right?
Yeah.
Right. The plant-derived mineral drink also contains ionic minerals. And yes, ionized water is water that has had its that has ions in it, essentially. And yes, it's a very good form of water, absolutely. And we should talk about the plant when we talk about our plant-derived minerals. We might also mention that there's ionized minerals in there too,
Awesome.
or mineral ions, we'll say.
And one thing that I want to clarify here, when he's saying the shell that gets ground up and mixed and dissolved in water, it's
Shale.
SH.
I didn't say shale. I said shell. I said shale.
Shale. It's
SHALE.
SHALE, not
Yes.
SHELL. I just wanted
Correct.
to
Yes.
create that
Shale.
clarity there.
Shale.
Fantastic. All right. Comment from Annie out on YouTube. She says hyaluronic supplements have made a huge improvement to my skin.
Yes.
Ben talked about taking them previously. So I thank you, Pharmacist Ben.
You.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Annie, for that comment. And let's go over to AJ.
Yeah, always sneaking up on me. How's it going, Pharmacist Ben?
Hello, AJ. Good to see you. What do you got?
All right. Well, before I get to my two questions, I want your approval or your opinion on the Pharmacist Ben 3 pillars images
Where's that?
on the screen. You see the screen?
Wow.
Oh.
Oh, what do you think about that one?
You are one. I think you're very creative. Let me look. This looks like I got to really
Okay.
sit with it. But it looks. Did you design this totally yourself?
Of course not.
This is. Oh, what do you? Of course not. Is this AI?
It's AI, man.
You got to tell me how you're doing this, man. This is amazing.
I will. And then this is another. Do you see a different one on the screen?
Long one. Where's? Oh, this is what we talked about the other day. 3, all disease, cell disease, and all cell disease is dirty blood. All dirty blood. Not all, because injecting can cause dirty blood.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to correct that. Dysglycemia spelled a little differently.
Yeah, it's the internet does that.
AI kind of does that. Yeah. I don't know how that fits, why that's in there, fits in, but yeah, all dirty blood. Dysglycemia is a component of dirty blood. You can take that thing out, but that's pretty good. Let's talk off air how you did that, because that's really nice.
We will get that. So now, you mentioned the word dirty blood. You just said earlier, and I don't know if Becca asked, but you mentioned the structured water, and you talked about ionization. How does that relate to dirty blood? If you can do that briefly.
Yeah. So the blood is not, we look at the blood, it's kind of misleading because it's just like this red fluid, but it's really composed of lots of different things, the blood. Obviously, there's blood cells in the blood, red blood cells, white blood cells. So there's a cellular component. And there's also platelets. Platelets are pieces of blood cells, fragments of blood cells that are involved in the clotting process. And those are considered to be the cellular components. They call them formed elements sometimes. So the cellular components. And then there's the plasma, the fluid portion. So it's probably about 45, 55, say. There's 55% liquid or plasma, and then the red blood cells, red cells, white blood cells, and platelets make up roughly around 45% or so of the blood. The fluid is very complicated, the plasma, extremely complicated. It's about 90% water, the fluid, but there's other things in there too. There's proteins in there. You all heard of albumin probably. Albumin is the most famous blood protein, and albumin is important for keeping the water balanced just so. It transports minerals and other molecules. There's also something called globulins. You'll probably ever heard IG, immune globulins. Globulins are like the word sounds, globular proteins. Then there's proteins that are involved in the clotting process. There's electrolytes in the blood. There's vitamins in the blood, amino acids in the blood, fatty acids in the blood, the sugar, glucose in the blood, oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, all kinds of hormones and wastes, and creatinine and urea. It's a very, very, very complex system. As the blood is circulating, it's generating an electrical charge. This is a a basic physics phenomena. When fluid moves, when fluid that contains particles move, it generates an electrical charge. This electrical charge and the movement and the movement of fluid, the movement of particles and fluids as the fluids circulate is a very, very complicated subject that actually Albert Einstein studied before he was known for quantum physics. He actually studied this phenomena of particles moving in fluids and what happens to the particles as they move. It's a very well-studied physics specialty, the movement of particles and fluids and the generation of electrical charges. Well, the body leverages that electricity to create electrical charges to do things. Remember, the body's running on electricity, as we said earlier. That electrical charge that is generated by the combination of ions and water and movement. And by the way, the movement, as you and I, AJ, have talked about earlier, the movement is so freaking cool in the vessels. It doesn't just go like this. It goes in a vortex. It's vortical movement. And that vortical movement further facilitates electrical charges. So you got the movement this way, and you got the movement inside the vessel this way in a spinning form. Can you imagine this? The blood is spinning like this in a vortex as it's moving. And vortexes plus ions plus movement plus water all facilitate electrical energy, which is called a zeta potential. And this zeta potential is a critical part of health. As we age, we lose that ability to, the fluids lose that ability to move effectively, and this is compounded by dirty blood. And really is the issue with dirty blood. You know, all of this stuff in the blood has to be held within certain parameters in order to have this movement occur with facility. Now, I don't want to get into too much of the details here because I don't want people to be overwhelmed by it, but the general idea is the movement is important, and the exact balance and ratios and proportions of everything in the blood has to be held just so, perfectly. The windows are very narrow. And yes, the body has an ability, the blood has an ability, and the body has an ability to really readjust things. They call it homeostasis. It kind of pulls things back down and keeps things in balance, but that system can be overwhelmed. And that system has evolved over the course of hundreds of millions of years. And in the last 100 years, we've completely changed the stuff that gets in the blood via the stuff that gets in the body. So of course we're going to be sick. So it's our job, if you have one job to do, it's to keep the blood clean. And when I say clean, I don't mean like sterile, because it's got to have stuff in it. I don't mean like empty, but keep the blood to where it doesn't have a lot of work to do. It can just do its business. It doesn't have a lot of homeostatic balancing and adjusting. You want to minimize the amount of work it has to do to keep everything just so. There's all of these working parts in it. And so when I talk about food, I talk about leaky gut, I'm not talking about it because I'm some Mr. Food guy. And it's a problem because when people hear about food, and I can see it, even though, you know, maybe not present company excluded, but when you talk to a lot of people about food, they just automatically tune out because we hear, first of all, it becomes a meme, it becomes jargon, it becomes in one ear and out the other, blah, 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 because we always hear that. But then we go into guilt and we go into childhood and we go into, I'm a bad person. It's just a bunch of baggage that's associated with it. If you're really serious about health, especially if you're sick, you got to eliminate all that and just be logical. The blood has to be kept just so. The major assault into the blood comes through the intestine. This is where dirty blood comes from. And it's not just toxicity. Yes, bacterial particles from the intestine get into the blood. Yes, lousy food gets into the blood. Yes, chemicals from the immune system and immune cells get into the blood. That's true. But sugar is a major, major, major factor in making the blood dirty. That's called glycation, and sugar globs everything up. And yes, the body needs a certain amount of sugar, and that makes it even more problematic because you can't just completely eliminate sugar. But you got to be really careful with that. And that's why we have this epidemic of health issues. Because not only are we putting toxins in the blood, not only are we putting the wrong food in the blood, but we're putting a way, way, way intense and extreme bolus or dose of sugar into the blood. But that's good news. All of this is great news because it means we have this huge place to work. If you go to the doctor, they'll say, sorry, We don't know. Nothing you could do. You'd be on this medicine the rest of your life. Your mother had this, so you're going to have it. You know, they take our power away from us. If we can filter through and get rid of all this baggage that's associated with how we think about food and how we think about eating, we can see that if we have an autoimmune disease, if we have heart disease, if we have Parkinson's disease, if we have dementias or movement disorders or whatever, cancer, whatever health challenge we have, this represents a major point of power. And between controlling what you put in the blood through food, through the digestive system, I'm not going to include injection, but that obviously is a factor, but for the most part, it's food. And you put the nutrition in, it's particularly connective tissue building nutrients and electrical nutrients. Anything, any health challenge can improve, any. That's why I always say the one thing you need is you got to believe in what we're saying. Because if you don't believe this, and there's probably people listening who say, blah, 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 my doctor didn't tell me this, and, you know, that can't be, it's too easy.
Can't
Fine.
save everybody.
What's that?
Can't save everybody.
Yeah, you can't save everybody, that's fine. But for people who really understand what I'm saying, this is such a powerful idea. And it's not only a powerful idea because it works. That's true. And it works for every health challenge. So don't let somebody tell you it's in your genes and your mother had it and there's no known cause and it's essential, blah, blah, blah. There's a cause for everything, and it involves stuff getting into the blood that shouldn't be and stuff that's not getting into the blood that should be.
Pharmacist Ben, I'm gonna rapid fire because I can't take up all the time. Do we have a show Monday? The holiday.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good for it?
Listen.
Let's talk about it later. I think I should be. I might be good for it. Where do you go? What happened to AJ?
His camera fell.
Oh.
All right, so Pharmacist Ben, my question is going to be then, my comment was the fact that you talked about the blood and the heart and all that stuff, and you know, it really comes clearly when you see a heart being unraveled after death. You know, it's in that same shape that you said that the blood spins in that vortex. You can unfold a heart, and that heart is in that same coiled shape. It's not a...
Yeah, all the tissues, that's right. That's what, as it pumps, and because it has all those coils, as it's pumping, it's going through the spinning motion as it's pumping. And that's where Dr. Cowan, I think you know, I've talked about Thomas Cowan. He's one of the first guys who I heard talk about this idea that the heart is not, the pumping action of the heart is not strong enough to send blood through 50 or 60,000 miles. I mean, think about that. You got 60,000 miles of blood vessels. The United States of America is 3,000 miles from end to end. 60,000 miles mean you can go from New York to California 20 times, right? And that's how many miles of blood vessels you have in your body. And some of those blood vessels are so tiny, they're like a fraction of a hair width. That's how thin they are. And so how is it possible for one heartbeat to send the blood through, you know, all of those blood vessels? It's not. What happens is as the blood is moving, as it's pumping, it's being sent on its way in a vortical motion, like a vortex, like a spiral. And as it's going through the blood vessels, it's spinning, and that spinning generates a magnetic charge. And the reaction between the fluids, which are structured and electrical and have ions and are moving in a vortex, reacts with the vessel wall to propel the blood. How amazing is that? Can you imagine this? It's the most amazing thing to me, is that you get this magnetic propulsion of the blood. And as we age, the blood vessels deteriorate. Minerals and particles and fats start to stick in the blood vessels, and the walls of the blood vessels release gases. And all of this dirt in the blood, and this becomes a big mess, and all of that becomes sluggish and slow. And then you don't get delivery of nutrients to the tissues and oxygen to the tissues. And so the brain says, let's turn the pressure up, right? And that's what high blood pressure is. High blood pressure is the brain's attempt to force more blood to the tissues because it's not getting enough blood because of all the destruction and all the damage and all the dirt in the blood. And then they call it essential hypertension. They say there's no cause for it. You're perfectly healthy, but you just have high blood pressure. All we can do is give you a beta blocker or a calcium channel blocker or a diuretic or whatever kind of drug they give you, which is the exact opposite of what the brain's trying to do, what the body's trying to do. They force the pressure down. So, you know, this misunderstanding, lack of understanding that our medical model has, and it's transmitted to the general public, this lack of understanding, is really creating this, wreaking havoc on our health. But the bottom line is, number one, believe and have willingness and be willing to participate in your own health process. And number two, clean the blood by working on the digestive system and work on sugar. And work on the sugar and get on a supplement, get on the Mighty 90.
Ben, Mike and Taryn's 17-year-old daughter, who had 10 months of Trentonin. Trentonin.
Go ahead. I don't know what that is.
Tretinoin.
Tretinoin. Okay, yeah.
Then she had mono. She has a full body rash, and we can't figure it out.
Does she have tretinoin? Tretinoin is retinoic acid. Is that what they mean?
I'm gathering.
It's a skin medicine.
But then she had mono.
Well, hang on. Is it tretinoin really? Is that for acne?
It says Tretinoin.
Spell it.
Trentinoin.
I don't know what that is. Tretinoin is retinoic acid, but I don't know what I don't know what you're saying, so it's hard for me to say. Mono is
tretinoin is used to treat acne or other skin disease.
Yes, tretinoin. T-R-E-T, tretinoin.
They spelled it wrong. Okay.
Okay. Yes. It stands for all trans-retinoic acid. It's a form of vitamin A, incredibly important and helpful topical ingredient, which I use all the time in my skincare products or derivative of it, for treating acne as well as for treating wrinkles, and also for treating skin cancer, by the way, or pre-skin cancer, actinic keratosis, and other skin issues. Yes. Then
she had mono. Now she has a full body rash.
The mono is a viral infection, or is bacterial. I think it's mononuclear. I don't remember if it's bacterial or viral. There could be either. In any case, it's an infection. The immune system fights it. It becomes suppressed. When the immune system is suppressed, it becomes very jumpy. And it's not unusual for a rash to follow some kind of immune attack. So that's pretty typical, or not pretty typical. It's not unusual, we'll say. And then I don't know if it could be to the drugs, though. She may have been taking drugs. So I don't know if it's due to the mono, because sometimes drugs can cause rashes. Rashes are a sign of a hyperactive a jumpy immune system. A jumpy immune system can be the end result of an immune assault, or it can be the result of drugs. And I don't know which one is what is the cause. However, the way you want to handle rashes, if it's not associated with anything, you want to see what it's associated with. It's usually some kind of immune assault. Strengthen the immune system. You could use immune boosting nutrients like vitamin C, which is really probably the most important immune boosting nutrient. Selenium, sulfur, zinc, just the Mighty 90 essential nutrients in particular. But rashes should go away as the body becomes stronger. So is it the kind of thing that she just got, or is it due to a drug? Or I'd have to ask a lot more questions. Ask her, is she online?
It's an email question.
Oh, it's an email question. We'd have to know. I'd need a few more questions. After an immune assault like mono, you can get a rash. Yes, that's true. But it could also be the drugs. If it's the drugs, stop taking the drugs. But rashes should go away.
And mono
usually you're not going to have a rash
viral.
head to toe. That sounds to me like a very compromised immune system. If the rash is from head to toe.
Thanks, Ben.
Is it?
It said all over the body. So
yeah. So that sounds to me like a very jumpy immune system. But rashes, it's not unusual for a rash to follow mono or any kind of immune assault. But antibiotics can also cause rashes.
All right. Thank you so much, Pharmacist Ben. And yes, mono is a viral infection. So the next question, Pharmacist Ben, is coming in regards to a male, 57 years old, 6'2", 220 pounds. He had a stroke July of 2024, 4th of July, not something to celebrate there. They gave him heparin, all tests inconclusive, had tingling, weakness, left side, lost muscle mass, and is now thin. In 2022, the next year, he had his appendix removed. 2 years later, he has diabetic retinopathy, with macular edema.
That's terrible. How old is he?
57.
That's
Not
terrible. That's
old.
terrible. What's the only disease, AJ?
My body's falling apart disease.
He's got MBFA. His body's falling apart. Now, stroke to me is the, you know, you guys, you want to do everything you could do to stay healthy just so you don't get a stroke. Because once you have a stroke, your whole life changes, and not in a good way. And I've seen it happen many, many, many times. And it's like like spinning a wheel. You don't know what's going to happen. You could lose control of your arms. You could lose control of your legs. You can become paraplegic. You can become blind. You could lose the ability to talk. You could lose muscles in your face. I mean, anything can frickin' happen. Stroke is just when part of your brain dies, and anything can happen. And I've seen the most horrible things that happen to people after they have a stroke. But you don't have a stroke unless something is going on in your body for a long period of time. So, if you're healthy now, stay healthy. Make sure you're paying attention to your health, because you don't want to have a stroke. This guy is tragically falling apart very rapidly, and he's only 57. He's very young. All of us over, in the age of 60 know how young 57 is. All of us older than the age of 60. It's very, very young. And so he's having a lot of things going wrong. The good news is that the more that goes wrong in your body, the faster you can turn it around. The bad news for him is he's got a stroke, and there's going to be some permanent things that happen because part of his brain dies when you have a stroke. So there's going to be some permanent things. He's just falling apart. So you mentioned, and I didn't remember everything you said, but I heard you say, you said a diabetic retinopathy.
Yeah, diabetic retinopathy.
You said, what did you say about the macula?
Macular edema.
Okay, so he's got circulatory problems. All of these are circulatory problems. He's got dirty blood. So what do? Right? If you try to approach every piece of fruit on the tree, you're going to go crazy. You can't approach every fruit on the tree. You have to go to the soil and the root, which is the blood. This guy had a stroke, so obviously the blood's not moving correctly. A stroke is when the blood doesn't get to part of the brain. And so they're giving him heparin to keep the blood flowing. Because why would you get heparin to keep the blood flowing? Because the blood is sticky, viscous. When I say dirty, the technical term is hypercoagulable. I call it dirty because it just sounds more graphic. You can picture what it is. Hypercoagulable means it clots. It forms clots. Hyper, too much, coagulable, it clots easily. Why does it clot? Because it's dirty. So this guy had dirty blood from the get-go. So clearly he had a long-standing problem that wasn't corrected. So what do? First of all, the Fucoid Z is nature's version of heparin, so he should be on the Fucoid Z. Anybody who has worried about or has had a stroke or has a tendency to clot, Fucoid Z. Gluco-Gel caps are also blood fluidizing, blood thinning, if you will. Ultimate EFAs, also blood thinning. Vitamin E, also blood thinning. Water, blood thinning. Oxygen, slow, deep breathing, blood thinning. All of these, anything you do to keep the blood moving. That's all the things we talked about. Structuring the water, structuring the fluid in the blood with the plant-derived minerals. And by the way, plant-derived minerals are not only detoxifying, but they'll also keep the blood moving. So plant-derived minerals, healthy start pack, healthy brain and heart pack probably. I would also throw in the Fucoid Z, as I mentioned, the ultimate niacin, ultimate selenium, and then anything you can do for digestion. He hasn't mentioned it, but I pretty much bet my house on the fact that he had long-standing digestive problems, and those need to be addressed because, as we've said so many times, that's the source of the dirty blood. So he has to work on all that. So there's a ton. The good news is there's a ton of stuff he could do. He can't. By the way, he said diabetic retinopathy, but he didn't say he had diabetes, right? He didn't say he had dysglycemia. So it's almost like that goes under the radar. You don't even notice it. But if he has diabetic retinopathy, then he's been diagnosed with dysglycemia. He has to work on his blood sugar. There's a lot. Good news is there's a lot of stuff he can do. Bad news is there's a lot of stuff he has to do. So it's good news, bad news. I prefer to look at the good news. There's a ton of stuff, ton of places to work. Digestion, blood sugar, and then the healthy brain and heart pack. I put him on the healthy brain and heart pack. If you want to do a three-way, we can do a three-way with him.
All right. Thank you so much. And as
you want to do one quick thing, after you have a stroke, oxygenation, slow, deep, rhythmic breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system and oxygenates the blood.
All right, good to know. And I'm glad that you mentioned the digestion, because as I'm looking at the list of products that he's on, there's nothing there really for digestion.
Yes, because his
So-
doctor hasn't seen our AJ's little diagram. Why don't we send that to his doctor and he'll understand.
There we go. All right, so hopefully that will be helpful. Let's go over to Albert.
Albert.
Albert,
Hey.
what
How
question are
you
you
been?
bringing
How you
in
keeping?
today?
Hi, Albert.
Ben, I've had a call a few days ago from an old client from Longevity. He met Dr. Wallach back in 1987 and has been on the supplement since then. There's an oldish guy. He's on Sweeties, Glucogenics, Synaptive, the Mighty 90. And his question was about niacin. So he wanted to know if he could, how much niacin he should take. And he's only taking 1 capsule a day and he weighs 190 pounds. So I said, well, up your niacin. And he says, no, he can't, because as soon as he does so, he breaks out, his whole body breaks out in his skin itches.
Yeah, that's a niacin flush, and that is one of the downsides of niacin. It's a vasodilator. It opens up blood vessels. More blood means heat and itching sometimes, and I've had it, and it's not comfortable at all. So a couple things you could do. First of all, niacinamide is no flush niacin. It doesn't have the same blood health properties as niacin, but it's still vitamin B3. That's one alternative. Secondly, if you take your ultimate niacin with food, you're less likely to have the niacin flush. Thirdly, if you get on your ultimate EFAs for a certain period of time, you're less likely to have the niacin flush. And fourthly, over time, you're less likely to have the niacin flush as your body kind of acclimates, gets used to the niacin. So you have different options there. You can go with niacinamide, which is still vitamin B3, but doesn't have the same kind of blood health benefits, particularly around cholesterol and blood fats. That's one way. Take it with food is another way. Make sure you're taking your ultimate EFAs for a couple weeks, and gradually you'll notice that you're not getting the flush as much. And number 4, if you keep taking and getting through that little hump where you get the niacin flush, eventually you're not going to get the niacin flush, or you can build yourself up slowly into getting the right dose on niacin. But I do commiserate, because I've had the niacin flush and it is not pleasant at all.
Great stuff.
Okay. All right, let's take one more here, or maybe a couple more if we can go fast.
All right, Jill, go ahead and unmute yourself. Thank you, Albert, for that question.
Hi, Ben.
Hey.
I have a customer who has been a very good customer of mine for, I don't know, at least 2 years, a little bit more. Takes the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack and a whole lot more.
Okay.
He, in September, was very surprised that he got a blood clot in his leg.
Okay.
And his doctors have had him on Eliquis ever since then. They had him on a really high dose for a while, but now they have him on kind of more of a normal dose. They want him to stay on it forever. He doesn't want to stay on it forever, but that's not really the question. He's hoping to work with them to eventually get off of it. He takes our Ultimate Nightly Essence, and he was taking it before the blood clot, and that has the nattokinase in it. He has shown it to his doctors. He's even shown it to his hematologist. I don't think they recognized that nattokinase was in it. They were looking at it like it was a probiotic. But he's been taking it. He hasn't had any problem. But somebody showed him a study that says that there's not a good idea, that there's a contraindication of Eliquis and nattokinase. And so he's concerned about it, and that's what I'm
Well,
curious.
I'm not going to tell him what to do, and nobody should tell him what to do. Just do whatever he wants to do. However, probably it's not like they counteract or anything. Nattokinase will help thin the blood because it's an enzyme, and the way these enzymes work. And by the way, I forgot to mention, the ultimate enzymes taken on an empty stomach also have a blood thinning effect, as does nattokinase, because these enzymes are protein dissolving. The clots are made up of protein. So the protein dissolving properties of proteases, technically they call them, which is protein dissolving enzymes like nattokinase or bromelain, which is in the ultimate enzymes, can thin the blood. Eliquis thins the blood too. So that's what they're probably seeing, I'm guessing, is that it might enhance the effects of the Eliquis. Now,
Well, his doctor didn't see it. It was somebody that showed him it in
no,
a
well, I'm
study.
talking about, I can't imagine, there's no, I'd have to see that to believe it. That
Yeah,
seems impossible. to me to
And
believe.
and he also, I might mention, took the jabber, and
Yeah, the jabber is known for causing the clots too. 'cause
and that's what I think it is. I mean,
could
I don't know.
easily be. So,
Yeah. So, but he
But-
does also have, which is what I wanted you to know, he has an extra main vein in his right thigh, and it starts as one and splits near the right knee. And so that's why they're in particular concerned about blood clots. That's why they have him on the blood thinner. I just want to know about the nattokinase.
what do you want to know? What's your
Your thought about that and the
I
Eliquis
think it's
together.
great. I think it's ridiculous to not take a nutrient. Nattokinase isn't really a nutrient, but to not take something that cleans the blood in a non-toxic way because you're worried about the drug you're taking that is toxically.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and let's listen. I got to go here after this, but blood thinning and blood clotting, it's a balance. You know, the blood flow is a balance between clotting and thinning, right? And so this clotting and thinning ratio, if you will, the balance of clotting to thinning, clotting to anti-clotting, and the movement of fluid is the most tightly regulated process in the body, arguably. Because when you think about it, the blood is everything. So the body has all of these systems in place for keeping it either clotting or not clotting. And when it wants to clot, the body has a reason for making a clot. It's trying to keep the toxins and the poisons from being distributed, or from keeping you from bleeding to death. That's why after surgery they give you blood clotting, blood thinning agents, because the blood will clot after surgery. So to take a drug that's going to thin the blood artificially, like Eliquis or Plavix, or warfarin or Coumadin, which they used to give you, they don't give you anymore, is powerful, powerful medicine. And blood clotting drugs are the most powerful medicines, arguably. There's others that are powerful, but among the most powerful medicines you could ever take. So when you take Plavix and Eliquis, you know, they're not as bad as Coumadin, which they used to give you, which is also known as rat poison, literally, because
Right.
that's how they kill rats. You know, Coumadin and Plavix are like a step up. They're a little bit more advanced. So they're not quite as toxic, but it's still heavy-duty medicine. So what I say is use nutrients that will thin the blood and lower your dose on the poison.
Yeah.
Instead of saying no nutrients because it's going to interfere with the poison,
Yeah.
use the nutrients and lower the dose on the poison.
That's what I suggested he talk to his doctors about
But
down the
that's what you
road.
have to talk to the doctor. But the
Yeah.
problem is that's not how doctors think, because they're trying to just accomplish a goal and they don't care about anything else. Remember, the doctor's goal is not to keep you healthy. A doctor's goal is to keep you alive.
Yeah, same
There's
thing. They took him off the EFAs, and I was
know,
I was
the same
telling
idea.
him that that's what he needs to talk to. I
Well,
mean,
it's not
he
quite
needs to
that
talk to them about getting back on the EFAs and lowering the dose in his next visit. So
It's not that cut and dry, because if you're working with a doctor, you have a contract with him, not
yeah, no,
literally.
I understand. I understand. We've talked about that before.
Yes,
and-
you have a de facto agreement with him.
but
He has
but
to do
his desire is not to stay on
and he
it.
gets to do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
That's his business. And
Yeah.
I say, when they tell you not to drink, not to take your EFAs, or not to eat green leafy vegetables because they'll interfere with your drugs.
Yeah, they told him everything, all of that, and avoid
Yeah.
turmeric, avoid. He had to stop drinking the juices he was drinking. Like
Well,
it was a
you
long
know.
list. Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
you do, you know? So that's between him and his doctor. But in my opinion, if it was me or my mother or somebody I knew that I had that was listening to me, I would say lower the dose on the poison, use more nutrients.
FYI, my mom is on Eliquis. She's been on it for a long time, and she's also on nightly essence. And that's exactly what I did. I worked with her doctor to get her on half a dose. I'd like her to be off the whole thing.
Yes,
But
exactly.
She
Eventually,
also took the thing. And
the
so,
thing.
yeah.
I know what the thing is.
Yeah. So behind my back. So yeah. So that's
For the
the half a
life of me,
dose
I don't know
works.
anybody. I would love to talk to somebody who took the thing and see what was going through their head, why they would take the thing.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who took the thing.
Yes. Yes, there's a lot of people that have taken the thing and multiple times.
Multiple
Well,
things. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well,
But
Pharmacist Ben.
the suggestion of the half is working for her. So I just wanted to hear what
Good
your
for
thoughts
you.
were.
That's
Thank
very
you.
on top
Thank
of
you,
it.
Jill.
All right. Let's and AJ, let's talk about next Monday. Call me up and we'll talk about Monday.
Okay. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Okay. Thank you,
All
Rebecca.
right. Thank
you,
you,
everybody.
Pharmacist Ben. And if we could get the co-hosts up on the screen, I know that we did not get to all the questions. We are keeping track of the questions that are coming in. There were some really good questions. So I'm excited to be able to share those with Pharmacist Ben, and hopefully AJ and Pharmacist Ben will address some of them on the next Pharmacist Ben Bites with AJ. AJ, did you have something you wanted to add real quick?
Well, folks who didn't get their questions answered, please email or call, and Becca knows where to do that.
Yes, so you can email your questions into questions@dailywithdoc.com. questions@dailywithdoc.com, or the phone number is 855-949-3377. 855-949-3377. Now, this is for people who are not already working with somebody. Got it? So if you're referred to this program by somebody specific, make sure that you get back with them. They are your person. Chances are they are part of an amazing community of certified holistic health coaches who use this program as a tool to help educate themselves and their clients and potential clients. So we want to make sure that you get back with them. Tell them thank you. But if there is no one to thank, go ahead and give us a call at 855-949-3377. AJ?
Becca, a lot of times coaches email in and call the line because they want a reference to get to Ben for some extra help. So you're gonna kind of clarify what you said, or?
Oh no, why don't you clarify for me? Because I know you know what you want to say.
No, it's your show, Becca.
I know Pharmacist Ben does have to get going.
I do have to
And yes, folks, if you do have questions for Pharmacist Ben, he does have an email, fuchs.ben@gmail.com. Is that correct? FUCHS.BEN. No?
Ben at KSC.com.
You can look
at ksco.com. That's easier. That's easier. Yes. So Ben, BEN @ksco.com. And you can get questions directly to Pharmacist Ben. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Pharmacist Ben. I know we held you a couple minutes late. Did you have a closing comment?
Yes. The human body is designed to heal. If you put the once things are broken, like you have a stroke or something, that's different. But if you're just ordinarily sick, chronic degenerative disease, just understand the good stuff in, the bad stuff out, your body will heal. It's in its nature to heal. And if you don't believe me, just think about the last time you cut yourself and remember, or in your memory, or just notice that if you cut yourself, how the cut heals. That's the testimony to the healing process that's built in to every single cell, every single tissue, every single organ of the body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so the question of the day out on YouTube, the poll, did you hit the like button and share with someone that needs this? And yes, far and wide, we had 90% people respond. Thank you for sharing, everybody. And no, we are secret society. No, we're not. Share, 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 folks. We want to make sure that people hear the message and know that there is some hope, that they are not stuck in my body's falling apart. Because, I mean, that's where I was. I heard the message. I drank the Kool-Aid. And now I am actually loving life. So I want to say thank you to my team that I have with us today. We have Marilyn, who's doing a great job with transcription, bringing in some questions, still doing transcription. Thank you, Marilyn. We've got Albert letting people in to the room, out of the waiting room, making sure that they're getting in. Thank you for being our gatekeeper, my friend. And we have Phyllis, who's also bringing in questions and putting comments into the chat. And folks, if you want to know what chat I'm talking about, you gotta join us live because that's the only place that the chat is available. And that is here, zoom.dailywithdoc.com, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, from 12 to 1 Pacific, 1 to 2 Mountain, 2 to 3 Central, 3 to 4 Eastern, and 9 to 10. Is it SAST?
SAST.
SAST. I got it. Fantastic. And that's also for those most that are in the UK as well. So Olga, thank you for being up so late with us, as I know where she's located. And Albert, thank you. And last but not least, an individual that is keeping me on task. And yep, that's you, AJ. Ruth Ellen's not here today to do it, so it's got to be you. You've got broad shoulders. Yeah, you're the man to do it. We have AJ who is helping to keep everything rolling, making sure that the stream gets out, and we still have sound on all of the different platforms. Thank you for those who are having trouble with sound and realizing that it was them, not us. That makes me feel better. I clicked all the right buttons today. And where are you pointing to? Phyllis? Well, I don't understand. She was out there.
Phyllis?
Did I skip Phyllis?
No, no, you didn't.
Okay.
It was quick, that's all.
Oh, okay.
I would never skip Phyllis. She's doing, I talked about her bringing in questions from YouTube and also.
I see Marilyn's note that she's known Doc since 1997, so I'm sorry.
She has known Dr. Wallach since 1997, longer than any of us on the screen. So I think that's fantastic. She's not just known him, but she's actually worked with him that long. So super. Doc is such an awesome guy, and he's enjoying the time off. And there is not a soul that he comes across that is a stranger now. So super excited to report that, as he is doing fantastic. And folks, you can be too. So if you are struggling or just not quite where you want to be, we got to take a look what's going in the pie hole, like Yvonne said yesterday, and what's not, or what's in our environment. As we talked with Joanna, and who's our ecologist, and the things that are contaminating us around us, keeping us from being able to reach our optimal best. There's a lot that we can do. So keep in contact with us. Stay tuned. Subscribe so that you don't miss an episode of Daily with Doc and Becca. My name is Becca Dukes. Thank you again so much for joining us. And if you're interested in becoming a certified holistic health coach or more information about it, go to coach.dailywithdoc.com or coachwithbecca.com, and you'll find more information. And we've got a special going on right now, but you got to call in order to get that code. So give us a call at 855-949-3377. Thanks for joining us today. And folks, if we missed your question, again, questions at dailywithdoc.com. Until next time, bye for now. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.